All right, so let's go right into the conversation. I like to start with something that a lot of parents find challenging, whether it's neurotypical children or neurodiverse children. Every parent here has had to deal with potty training. Like, how do you get them to stop wearing diapers, to let you know when they want to use the bathroom? And it's something they're going to do for the rest of their lives. It's not just potty training for childhood, but it's for the rest of their lives. So I'll start the conversation with that.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I think when I was asked by our convener what I wanted my titles to be, I almost said Mom on a Mission, because that's what I feel like. So, I mean, potty training, first of all, my daughter was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So, potty training, I think, is different for children that are on the spectrum. And I think I even made a video about this at some point. And I said, give them time. You know, the typical age for potty training for, a neurotypical child, they'll say between 2 to 3. But with, children that are neurodivergent, it's going to take a little bit more time. So that's what we did. We gave her time. She's 4 now. She's fully potty trained. But I didn't put any pressure on her. And more importantly, I didn't put any pressure on myself. And I just, took the practical steps for potty training, rewards. She's verbal, so, rewarding her, giving her incentive. The regular potty training steps that you would take for a child, but giving her more support and giving her more time to get it. And I love that we had a panel session before with therapists and so on, because our therapist played a really big part in actually teaching us how to potty train her and the steps to take. So that was basically it. I think we just gave her time and she eventually got it. Yeah.
I think that's so important about giving people time, and not just your child, but yourself. So everybody has their own time. It doesn't have to be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, as much time as it'll take. And I love the fact that you worked with a professional. So you didn't just try to figure everything out on your own and then give up because you're just exhausted and overwhelmed. So I'm going to move to eating because we have you here, and what I love is when you can see the practical results of what they are preaching. They say talk now do, right? So you're not just telling us what to eat and how to eat foods that will heal us, but you're also, the skin is skinning. I'm here so I can see it. But yes, when it comes to eating, because this is about practical tips, sometimes parents are just overwhelmed. They don't know, about allergies. They don't know how to get the right kind of foods. Or sometimes they go online and they see things like kale and salmon, and these are not native to us, at least not very popular here. So how can they navigate that within the Nigerian experience and Nigerian cuisine?
Thank you very much. So I think the very most important thing, the ground zero of, I would say, any conversation about helping to recover or at least improve a child is nutrition. We're doing all these therapies, we're doing all this academic learning, but the truth is, if the child isn't getting the right nourishment to start with, a lot of that is going to be futile. You're going to have frustrated parents, you're going to have frustrated teachers, and you're going to have a frustrated child, because autism for years, ASD, ADHD, so many of these, neurological development disorders have been categorized as mental or psychological, but they are whole body disorders. They are physiological. So the body needs attention. And when the body is attended to, then you begin to see improvements in the brain. So one of the things that I think parents need to understand as a starting point is the connection between the gut and the brain. Hippocrates said, you're a doctor. He said, all disease begins in the gut. So it follows that all health begins in the gut. It's how you manage what is going into your stomach. Like, if you understand that 80% of the communication between the brain and the stomach are directionally from the stomach to the brain, then it tells you what is in charge. The stomach is doing most of the communication to the brain. So it tells you that what goes into the stomach is essential to what happens in the brain and what happens all over the body. So over the years, like most people here who have been speakers, like most people in here, I also am a custodian of a child that had a diagnosis or has a diagnosis. I say my son is overcoming autism. He's 13 years old, he'll be 14 this year. He's in a mainstream school, is in year 8, and he's doing well. And I believe one of the reasons why he's doing well or better than he would have been doing is because of his diet. Is because ever since he was about 7, 6.5 years old, we decided to just recalibrate and focus on what goes in his stomach. And so I know that it might seem complicated sometimes, but it's actually it's pretty easy. There are different diets. There are so many different diets that can get confusing. But when you narrow it down, like I'm the proponent of something called the GAPS diet. So I'm honestly not here to sell a book, but I do have a book that covers essentially everything that, has to do with the GAPS diet. Like it breaks it down. And the GAPS diet is a diet that addresses, the influence that sugar, that gluten, that starchy foods, and all sorts of things like that have on the stomach, which affects the presentation of the child. So when you're talking about nutrition, it's about just taking your time, first of all. Do your research. Understand how to find alternatives. Like sometimes we read these books, they seem complicated. But for me, what I was able to do was distill and find alternatives to most of the foods that were recommended. And in Nigeria, there are plenty of alternatives. So it's about creating a menu, a meal plan for your child that will work for them. And the truth of the matter is you have to be patient. You have to take it in a capsule of time. You can't look at him tomorrow or in a week
And
or
expect
say,
like
what's going on? It's not
microwave
changing.
results.
Exactly.
We'll come back to the diets. I
Right.
know people will want to know like specific things and learn more about the GAPS diet, but I'll move to our next panelist. And you deal with a lot of mothers, a lot of fathers, a lot of parents or guardians, and they bring their children in to go and see the pediatrician. What are practical tips that you give to parents when they bring their children with special needs? So across, from ADHD to autism to cerebral palsy, and just to encourage them, because we have some of those parents here, or some of them, tuned in online, and for a lot of them, they just don't know where to start from.
So thank you very much, Isabella. Hi, moms, and the two dads in the crowd. Yes. So we're grossly outnumbered. So it's great to be here. So practical tips. I would say the first practical tip I would like to offer is that no two children are the same. Make sure that you're not trying to force one child into the system that you have created to work for another, even because you will just end up frustrating that one child. So I think my first practical tip is do not try to assume that all children are the same. Secondly, one should bear in mind the idea that the goal of helping, offering tips, of raising a child is for the child to become independent as much as possible. The idea is that you want to make sure that they are acquiring those little skills as much as they can, so that by the time they are 5, they're able to do the things that a 5-year-old can do, albeit a little bit slower than what you would expect a neurotypical child to do. So, how do you achieve independence for them? Number one, they will copy you and copy everything that you do. So sometimes let them watch you get dressed. Let them watch you put on a shoe. Let them watch you do those practical things that you think that it will be hard for you to teach them. But by the time they watch you, because children, learn by imitation, and so just let them imitate you in everything that that you are doing, and then try to help them. Don't be scared of letting them try it out by themselves. I find out that in the West, they're a bit more eager to let their children try things out than here. Here is like, open your mouth, and they want to give them the food. Sometimes let them feed themselves. They will make a mess, but, well, it is what it is. When it comes to potty training, very quickly, I think this is my last point. When it comes to potty training, I also think that you shouldn't pressure yourself, as Ayoinka has said. Don't pressure yourself, don't pressure the child, because if the child forms a disordered relationship with pooping, and I'd say that one of the first things that the child becomes ashamed of is the smell of their poop, which is why they will go to the corner when nobody is watching, and they will do it, and then they'll come out satisfied. And you're wondering, where is this smell coming from in this house? So don't give them that impression that, oh, it's the pooping is something to be ashamed of. So try to just, create an environment where pooping is normal and physiological. Begin to take them to the toilet as soon as you possibly can, so that they are familiar with the toilet environment. I mean, I'm so in the line of the discussion, we're still going to, of course, talk about more things about nutrition and more practical steps. But I'd say that I think those are some of the 3 steps that I think you can just employ to make sure that the children have an idea that I can do this myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So one round of questioning from me, and then we'll open the floor for questions. I was debating, so I'll let you choose whether you want to speak on screen time or maybe sleep patterns, because those are very important with daily care and the daily routine.
Yes, because I think we've spoken a lot about screen time. So I would say, to be very honest, my daughter, she hasn't never really had issues with sleep. I know that this is something that parents that have children with ASD struggle with a lot. But luckily, she hasn't really had that issue. And as Tolu was speaking, I've always wondered, like, what can I use to describe her? And overcoming autism is like perfect, because she's almost overcome, a lot of her symptoms. But for sleep, and I would say for any child, and especially children with ASD, a routine is so important. So we have a routine. In the evening, she has her dinner, she has her medicine, she goes to bed at a certain time. No, we read before bed, and then she goes to bed at a certain time every single day. So they need that stability and that routine. Another thing that really helps as well is magnesium. And we all know that magnesium is good to calm them as well. And there's some calming exercises that you can do as well. If you just Google calming exercises for children with ASD, sometimes they like pressure, so sometimes weighted blankets. But my daughter is very sensitive to blankets, so she doesn't like pressure. So she doesn't sleep with any pressure at all. So you need to create a very comfortable environment for them, so that they can, be comfortable with it. They can be used to that environment. And then I would just say routine. So I think that has helped us. For the times that she does wake up at night and things like that, I just try to find out what the need is, fill that need, and then put her back to sleep as well. But I think just having a very strong routine and, letting the child know what to do at a certain time really helps. Yeah.
So about having that routine and knowing what works for your child. I love how you gave the example of the different interventions and using the one that actually works. So I will pick up on the magnesium, because this is your field when it comes to the diet. So if you can just share maybe some of the important vitamins, the important nutrients that are required, not just for neurodiverse children, but I'll say also neurotypical children, because if everyone can be healthy in the family, why not? If everybody can be healed from food, why not? It shouldn't just be the child with that's neurodiverse.
Absolutely. So I don't know if Yumika said it enough, but routine, and I'm glad you echoed that. Our neurotypical children need routine. So how much more, our children who might need additional support. So it's very important that you set the right environment, first of all, for sleep. She mentioned magnesium. I'm very glad she said that. And so to piggyback on that, there's supplements that, the truth is our children are not going to get every nutrient they need from food. It's not going to happen. So that's why supplements are essential. So you do your research and you find out what probably your children's deficiencies might be, and you supplement. You find the most pure supplements that you can get. Magnesium is one that is fantastic for sleep, like she said, because it helps to calm. It helps to calm, even as an adult. Like magnesium is very effective. You can actually mix it into, their lotions or shea butter or something, and just use it as their night cream, and it actually helps them to sleep. You can, spray like pure magnesium under their feet and just massage their feet, and it helps them to sleep. You can put it in the bathtub and, just be a part of the night routine. So these are some of the things that can actually help. When we talk about supplementing, like I said, there are some things that maybe may not be accessible to everyone, but the truth is you just need to find what works for you. There's a world of research out there. I think what happens is a lot of parents get so overwhelmed. You just look at the problem and it just looks like it is insurmountable. but you just take it one day at a time. This is advice that I'll give anybody. Whatever it is you're facing, just address it little by little. Don't try to take it in one big bite, or in a, you're going to be overwhelmed, you're going to be discouraged. So just try to chip away at it a little bit at a time. Do your research and find out where your children's deficiencies are. Talk to doctors. We have fantastic doctors like this who will help you to diagnose your child, who will observe them, who will give you, diagnosis, and also, routines to follow, and medications, or supplements, or whatever. So there's too much that we have left undone before we say we don't have any more choices, or we don't have any more options. And I'm glad that we have this conference, because it's an opportunity for us to start trying to discover what we've not done, try to learn what we haven't actually started, identifying or knowing. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Renner, when it comes to practical tips for everyday living, you already spoke about the relationship children have with poop, for example. What are things that we can do as parents to encourage children to come out of their shell, to feel loved and accepted? So it could be how to perhaps talk to other siblings or talk to caregivers. What practical tips do you have?
Okay, so and thank you very much, Tolu, for the kind words. When it comes to social interaction, we do realize that children who are on the spectrum, one of the hallmarks of their condition is the idea that they have impaired both verbal and non-verbal communication, and they don't really understand non-verbal cues. So if you are dissatisfied with them, if you like wink and do like this from now till kingdom come, they're going to ignore you depending on where they are on the spectrum. So the first place in which a child is going to socialize, of course, is the family. And unfortunately, you find out that children who are on the spectrum, you'll find some who are a bit more sociable and they're willing to be hugged, they're willing to maintain eye contact, but there are some that they will simply resist any kind of affection and they will push you away no matter what. But you'd be surprised at some point in time during your interaction with them, they will be the ones to come to you, because everybody does need that human connection at some point in time or the other. So social integration, of course, is another aspect of care of children that are neurodiverse that we need to address, because we live in a social environment whereby they must interact with other people. They are going to grow up, they're going to be interacting in school environments, in work environments, and they need to do so in a functional way. And so, practical tips that can aid and help them to make sure that they are trying to integrate without forcing them to interact with who they do not want to interact with, because you will get a meltdown. You'll get a meltdown. So make it gradual. I think that's the first point. Make it as gradual as possible. If they seem unwilling to actually go into that situation where they are made to interact with people, then don't force it on them. Let them just be with you. Two, is continually expose them to situations where they can interact. And nothing is more interactive than play. Whether it is, their play group, whether it is, swimming lessons. I know Bode Abifarin, she wrote a book on her, because I think she has two sons that are on the spectrum, and she was describing their football practices and how they enjoy going to football practice. So extracurricular, gives the opportunity for them to learn new skills and interact. And you see, that learning process actually helps to fine-tune neurons in the brain to make sure that they connect learning a new skill with being around other people. And so that actually helps them to integrate more socially. I'm sure we'll raise other points as the discussion goes on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to take just 3 questions. Please keep them very brief.
So my question basically, we're talking about tips, right? Practical tips. My question now is, I work with an organization, and specifically for Down syndrome, and most often we get students or persons with Down syndrome in their 20s, in their 30s, as even in their 40s. And you still see some of them still do not have this, they're not toilet trained. They still mess up themselves, cannot make use of the toilet, cannot clean themselves. What are the practical tips that can be used for adults like that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My question is on feeding. So, formerly, when my son was about maybe 8 months, he would eat anything. But suddenly, he has grown this strong preference for only Friso cream. He doesn't want to eat anything. Now he's 2 plus, he's turning 3. He doesn't want to eat anything. He doesn't take juice, he doesn't take nothing, only Friso cream. I've tried several ways, but it's not working.
So I'm a mom of 4 and I have 2 children on the spectrum. So I did the whole diet thing, right? I was constantly in the kitchen. I was doing the gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free, sugar-free. I was doing everything for my daughter. In fact, when I started doing it, that's when she started getting her speech. She's 11 now. I started when she was about 3. But it took a toll on me and it took a toll on my pocket, right? So I asked myself, can I keep doing this for the next 20 years of her life? And I said, no, I can't. And I also noticed that she started rejecting the gluten-free foods. She's older now, so she will practically go get a plate, sit down with you, and want to eat your spaghetti with you. This is a girl that I used to use 1 hour. She used to eat Cerelac, and we take 1 hour and we pray and beg her to swallow. So now she's breaking bones. She's eating everything. She's doing all these things. But I want to ask, is it okay to let her be? Meaning that she's eating everything now. She will stare you down. She doesn't want her gluten-free spaghetti. And me say, I don't have money to be buying gluten-free spaghetti. So she's staring you down. She wants to eat eba. She wants to eat the spaghetti. She wants to eat everything. But one part of me is like, should I stop her? Should I take her back to gluten-free? Or should I just let her be? And also notice that there are no, since she started eating better now, I don't see any effects. She's done the food allergy test. I've done series of tests sent to the US and all those things. And then my second question is, okay, so my first question is, should I let her be? Then the second question is, I was also buying supplements for her. I was importing copper, selenium, digestive enzymes, omega-3. I was buying all these things for her. But after some time, me too, I got tired. How much is dollar now? So I just said, let me let this girl be for 2 months. Let her system breathe. So I noticed that her sleeping pattern is the same. She's not regressing. She is fine. So I just let her be without the supplements.
Familial delay, this idea of, because the father does not work on time, then children should not work on time. It's a myth, it's misguided reassurance. And definitely the intervention that you give to a 9-year-old is the same intervention that you give to a 2-year-old. So the earlier, the better. When it comes to Down syndrome, you see, Down syndrome is peculiar in the sense that they have what we call a learning disability, which we used to call mental retardation, but now we start calling it learning disability. So that's the challenge. And sometimes some people with difficult learning disabilities, they will need care for the rest of their lives. So the only practical tip is that get nursing care. Unfortunately, as hard and as expensive as it is, they will need nursing care for the rest of their lives. And that is just the unfortunate reality of our existence. But can the government subsidize some of this care? I think it's something that we should advocate for. I framed the question as a Friso cream baby. At least he's eating a Friso cream, Abby. Just keep on trying to offer the other things that you can and let him eat the Friso cream. One day you'll be surprised he will just eat, the other things. Gluten-free. Please allow her to enjoy herself. Allow her to eat her gluten-laden pasta. Let her join you in your pasta. Because the reality is that, she has gotten to that stage where it's unlikely that she's going to regress, in any way. As for the supplements have been useful, but what I'd say is that if you stay off the supplements and allow her to eat the gluten, maybe for some time, and you think that there's any kind of regression, she's becoming a teenager. She's going to have her independence, she's going to go to school, and she's not going to be under your care. So you have to have a discussion with her about what is good for her and how she can maintain her health even while she's not under your direct watch. Thank you.
Thank you. So to the lady that asked about, the 9-year-old, I would say it's pretty much straightforward. Early intervention is the best. There's no harm in early intervention. So when you have a parent who is saying, we'll wait, tell them that there is more harm done when you wait than there is if you don't wait. So just start early. So for the lady whose child is eating Friso cream, I don't know if that's what it's called, sorry. My son, for years, for about, I'll say maybe 3 years, all he wanted was Cerelac. What we started doing was we started adding fruits. We started adding vegetables. We started blending, just different things into his Cerelac. And it helped him to transition. So I think you want to do that very carefully. You don't want to do it drastically where she notices the taste. You want to just do it gradually. And then let her start adopting that new taste. And then gradually, you just evolve her from it. I think start there. The right kinds of fruits, vegetables, just start adding it into the Friso cream. Then for my sister who is on the supplements and who is, Your child is old enough now, I think, to start weaning off all this, special diets. So for me, gluten-free and casein-free and all that has never really been my jam. It's always been about finding whole foods, healthy, clean foods, our natural foods. Anything in a package, try to avoid it. Anything that is that is longer than a name that you can pronounce, try to avoid it. So for me, if it is from the farm, if it is something that is fresh and natural food, then you can incorporate it into her diet. She wants to eat your spaghetti, let her have some of your spaghetti. But there are ways that you can still keep her diet clean. There are ways that you can still, there's so many alternatives to all these foods. So for example, eba. My son doesn't eat eba because it's quite starchy, and starch converts to sugar. But he'll eat tiger nut swallow. Sometimes I'll turn sweet potato into a swallow for him. There are things that you can still use to carry that very delicious stew. So it's just about becoming just very creative, and you don't have to spend so much time in the kitchen. If you have a few staples that your child likes, just play with them. And like I said, she can start enjoying your foods. She actually can start enjoying your foods as long as there's no sign of regression. But pay attention. If you start seeing that maybe you're beginning to see certain symptoms redevelop again, then of course you know that what has changed is the diet. Supplementation as well. For example, you don't have to go and be buying only pills. We can find out what is the actual nutrient value of this supplement. So if it's something that is more like you need, maybe you can find it in carrots, you can find it in spinach, you can find it, then just give them more of that. If you're looking for potassium, give her more bananas. More, maybe baked plantain. You don't want to do too much of frying. So it's about just doing your research and finding alternatives. And my book has all these alternatives. It has a lot of recipes. It has a lot of details about some of these things that I also have tried and have been able to help to surmount, negative diet repercussions for my child. So,
Thank you very much. I know our time is up, but I'll still love you to answer any of the questions that were posed.
So I really wanted to touch on this because I'm a mom of a child who has had very strong food aversions, and I know how frustrating it is when you want to give your child the best food and they refuse to eat it. I had a point where she was eating only yogurt for like 1 month. At a point, she didn't eat anything that had meat for 1.5 years. And this is someone who was eating well, in her younger years. So it's very frustrating. But I think, like Tolu said, hide things. There's nothing I've not blended. There's nothing I've not hidden. There's nothing I've not, hide them. And also they're very particular. So if it's a different color, a different temperature, one thing is off, they won't eat it. So you just have to keep trying. It's very frustrating. But you keep trying to find how you can add these healthy foods and these additives that are going to be, good for them into their food. And also that's why supplementation, is so important as well, because they get those nutrients from the food that they're not getting. As someone whose daughter is on a specific diet as well and doesn't like, to always eat those things, I apply an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time she eats the good things for her. 20% of the time I let her be a child. I don't know, professionally if that's good, but I make sure that 80% of her diet is healthy. And sometimes I'll let her, she'll tell you, Ribena is bad, Coke is bad, because she knows we don't have those type of things. But sometimes I do. And I want to mention very quickly that when I started healing her gut is when she actually started trying new foods. So we first worked on the issue, and then we started introducing the healthier foods, and I found that she was more receptive to eating better when she had like a better microbiome, and her gut was healed, and we're supplementing her right. So try backward integration, try healing, and then try introducing the new foods as well. And I wish everyone all the best.
Thank you very much.